Guys, all the cars that you see in these videos are for sale on my website, www.woodsandbarclay.com. Enjoy the video. Hey guys, welcome back to the series on the Black Pearl. Today is the general maintenance day. We're gonna do fluids, filters, bleed the brakes, because you know I have a new brake system on the car, do a valve adjustment, all that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and get started with bleeding the brakes, and then I'll move into the valve adjustment. All right, guys, so for bleeding the brakes, you see I have a cup underneath underneath all the calipers around the car. And the first thing I want to do, I'm just going to crack the bleeders and let the fluid start coming from the reservoir and just start dripping. And then we can, once we get to that point, then we can finish up doing a pressure bleed. All right, guys, I'll just show you one. So you just take your cap. Doesn't that look nice in there? Look at all those new parts. So let's just take our cap off here. And then I think this is a 9mm. Here we go. There we go. We just cracked that open. And now we're just gonna let it sit, and it's gonna start to gravity bleed. And when we see the system start dripping, the calipers start dripping, we know we have fluid in here, and then we'll pressure bleed it to get all the little bubbles out. Okay, while the system is starting to gravity bleed, I'm going to go ahead and move up here, and we're going to start popping off all the connections up here so we can get our valve cover off, because I want to do a valve adjustment. Now, the car runs good, so it might not need one, but I need to check them all just to make sure. And then we're going to install a fresh valve cover gasket on here also. All right, so first thing I did, I went ahead and I removed this original Mercedes zip tie. These are reusable. So we have this breather hose detached. And then we're going to pull off our breather tube here and set this aside. There we go. All right. And we're just going to move this out of the way, spin it right over here. And I'm going to start pulling off some of our linkages. And this also gives us the opportunity to lubricate our linkages. And this is the air conditioner shutoff switch. We're going to go ahead and pull that guy off of here. We're going to remove this cruise control linkage here and just slide it out of the way. That's a 13mm. And kind of get this guy out of the way here. Now I can get access to that clip underneath there. There we go. All right, now we can just move our cruise control linkage, kind of set it to the side right there. We'll remove our connection, just kind of set this over here. All right, now we want to take apart this throttle linkage area right here. All right, we're also going to change these diesel return hoses here. Even though none of them are leaking, it's just part of the process I go through. All right, now we're going to pop these clips off. There's little E-clips down here, and if you drop these guys, it's okay. You can get E-clips on, Amazon. All right, then there's let's see, we got a clip right here. Pull this guy off. That just slides up. That one just fell on the ground. Let me go get it. All right, that clip I just pulled off. This is the only weird one, the unique one. This is the same clip that they use on your shifter bushings. So basically, the rod slides in here, and then the clip slides forward over it and locks itself in place. That's a stranger one. Okay, we're taking a little stopping point to check our brakes, and we can see this one dripping? So the rears have started to gravity bleed. We'll go ahead and tighten this back up on the rear. The fronts haven't started yet. And then we can pressure bleed this system. All right, now that we have all these clips removed, Actually, there's a couple more little washers I need to remove right here. All right, there we go. Now we need to go ahead, we'll pop off our linkage up here. There we go. I can tell these were lubricated in the past, guys. See how easy that came off? Okay. Now what we need to do is slide this one back here. And we can then slide this one out here. Oh, I need to remove it from the injection pump. There we go. There we go. And then this main linkage that goes to the firewall, that can just be pushed aside right there. And we have that linkage removed. And then we want to undo our Bowden cable. That's right here on the top. And we're just going to pop that loose. There we go. And then you can pinch it back here. It's a pinch release clip. There we go. And that pulls right through there. Okay. And we'll just set that guy aside over there. All right. So everything is disconnected. Now, I may go ahead and remove these two bolts and just pull this linkage off. That way we can more easily clear the air filter housing. But you can leave these on if you want. But the air filter housing is like right in the way, and this makes it a little easier. All right. Now what we want to do is go ahead and remove the 13 millimeter. There's 4 13 millimeter that hold the valve cover on. We'll go ahead and get it off here. And there's one over here. And one over here. Normally this is so close to the valve cover that when you're trying to take it off, it bangs in to the cruise control actuator. But so we're going to leave that alone for now. See if I can get it off. All right, I'm going to go ahead and try to remove the valve cover. You can see we do have a nice gap between the cruise control. Usually I remove this and set it aside. Now, also, sometimes these wires right here, you can see I think that's the temperature, water temp, and anyway, I don't remember what sensors those are, but sometimes this wire runs, there you go. See how tight it is in there? Sometimes I'll get in the way and I have to loosen this clamp and kind of move those wires out of the way. Getting it off is usually the easy part. It's putting it back on that can be tricky. Let's see. Oh, yeah, this one's been on here. All right, let me tap that guy. There we go. All right, let's remove our hose back here. There we go. All right, appears to be coming off here. Oh, there we go. Yeah, see that cruise control? It always bangs into it right there. Now, I know you can like twist it to get around it, but I just like to remove it. I'll probably remove it when we go back on. All right. All right, we're going to get this over to the parts washer, kind of clean the gunk off of it, make it pretty again. All right, guys, let's take a look in here at what a 50,000 mile motor looks like. So we can immediately see how these cam lobes, see how perfect that cam lobe is? There's no scoring or anything. That means, you know, regular oil changes. Look, see how perfect that is? No scratches, no nothing. That means regular oil changes were being done. And this looks fantastic. That's what a healthy 617 that has been well maintained with low mileage, that's what the camshaft looks like. Beautiful in here. Up here you have your timing chain guides. And guys, on gas cars, you have to change your timing chain, I don't know, every 80, 100,000 miles. On diesels, that does not apply. This is a thick double row timing chain. These things are stout as hell. You know, 250,000 miles, 300,000 miles, no problem for these timing chains. And down here, there's the tensioner. See if we push, see it goes back like that. That's oil-filled tensioner down there. But yeah, this looks fantastic. So what we want to do for the valve adjustment, we're going to start on this one right here, because you want your cam lobe, actually, you see that dot right there? You kind of want your cam lobe lined up with that dot. There's also one right here, which is about the 1 o'clock position. And that puts, these are shaped like a teardrop. And you want the tip of the cam lobe about 1 o'clock. And we want to measure the clearance between the rocker arm and the base of the cam lobe. So if you look at, for example, this one right here, see there's a tip and a base. And we need to have clearance under that base. Now, the clearance you need is actually listed right here on the car. And you always want to do this on a cold engine. Let's see. There we go. Valve lash at water temp below 30 degrees Celsius. That just means a cold engine. The intake is 0.10 millimeters. The exhaust is 0.35 millimeters. Now, if for some reason you're doing it on a hot engine, it says valve lash at water temp above 45 degrees, which that's just a hot engine. Intake, they add 0.05 millimeters, so you have 0.15 millimeters, and they add 0.05 millimeters here too to 0.40 millimeters. But we're doing the cold, so we want 0.10 and 0.35. So let me get my feeler gauges. All right, here's my little diagram that I ordered from Kent out at Mercedes Source, probably like 12, 15 years ago, something like that. We have the front of the engine, and you can see cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you can see here, exhaust, intake, intake, exhaust. It tells you the order of the valves. So we want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to start back here on number 6. And number 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know if you can see that. It says IN. That's an intake. So the intake, we see right down there, 0.10 millimeters. All right, here I have a 0.10 millimeter feeler gauge, and here's our thicker for the exhaust, the 0.35. And what we want to do, we just want to go back here and see if that fits in there. Okay, check that out. That slips in there perfect. Yeah, that is a perfect valve adjustment on this this cam lobe right here. Now, guys, you want to have it vertical to 1 o'clock. You don't have to have it like exactly correct, but you pretty much want it in that position right here. So what we need to do next is rotate the engine until the next cam lobe comes up to be measured. And I can see the one that's almost there is 1, 2, 3, 4. Is this one right here. And number 4, that's an exhaust. So we're going to need our 0.35 millimeter. Now, to rotate the engine, I'm going to go put a socket on the front of the crank. I think it's like 1 1/16 socket. And I'm just going to rotate it with a half-inch breaker bar. And we'll rotate it over until this one comes up. I'll put the camera here so you can watch. All right, did y'all see it rotate? It is right on the dot right there. We got it in perfect position. So let's take a measurement there. This one is 0.35, so we have our 0.35 feeler gauge. All right, that one's a little tight. And it's typically the exhaust that tighten up, not so much the intake, because the exhaust runs way hotter than the intake valve. So we're gonna go ahead and adjust this one. And guys, I'm gonna show you how to do one, and then I'm gonna go through, check the rest of them, and let you know what I found when I'm done. But here's how we do one of them. What we have here, you have a nut on the bottom. Let me zoom in for you. There we go. We have that black nut on the bottom and the silver colored nut on the top. So those are locked together, right? They're locked, they meet up against each other and they're locked in place. So we want to put a wrench on the bottom one and then turn the top one counterclockwise. That will move it up the valve stem and break it loose. And then if you take that bottom nut and you move it down, so clockwise down the valve stem, and then we can follow it clockwise with the top nut, and that will open up the gap that is over here. Let's see, right there on our rocker arm on the cam lobe. So let me show you how to do that. All right, guys, here's wrenches that I also ordered from Mercedes Source. And guys, I've heard of people doing it with regular wrenches, or you can order like original wrenches. I just really like the way Mercedes Source designed these. You can see there's like the edges are kind of filed right there, so you can slip in easy. And then one's angled left, one's angled right. So if you don't have clearance, you can swap wrenches. Anyway, I'm not paid by Mercedes Source. I just like his wrenches. So what we want to do, we'll go in here, we'll put this one on that bottom black nut. There we go. And this one is on the top. Now I'm going to hold the bottom still, and I'm going to go counterclockwise on the top, and you'll see it just broke loose. All right, now I want to go clockwise on the bottom nut to move it down. All right, go clockwise, there we go. Now I'm going to go clockwise with the top nut. All right, we also moved that down. Now I'm going to snug the bottom one back up to meet it so that holds it in place. And keep in mind, we're only moving like thousandths of an inch, or what did it say, 0.35 millimeters, that gap. So the movements we're making are very, very small. You know, 1/3 of a millimeter is what the gap needs to be. So let me go measure this one. Okay, still a little tight. So we need to open it up again. So I'm going to switch wrenches here. I'm going to go down on the bottom, follow it with the one on the top. Switch wrenches again, there we go. All right, down a little bit more. Let's see what that did. Okay, look at that. We have perfect clearance now. It just slips in there. There's a little bit of drag, but it slips right in there. That's right where we want it. Okay, so what we want to do now is hold the top still, because that's where the gap is. We're going to hold that still, and we want to move the bottom up to it to tighten it. There we go. That closes the gap, and we'll press them together. All right, there we go. Now we want to double check our clearance to make sure we didn't move it at all. Oh man, perfect. Let me show you guys that. All right, we go over here. Here's our 0.35 gauge, and there should be a little resistance. There we go. See how I got to just push just a little bit to get it to go in there. That's a perfect valve adjustment. All right, guys, that's the basic idea. That's how you do it. I need to go through there's 10 total. I got 8 more to go. I'll come back when I'm done and let you know the results. Okay, I am done with the valve adjustment. Every one of the intakes was in perfect adjustment, and I had to make adjustments on 4 of the exhaust valves. And so I think someone had recently done a valve adjustment on this one, probably in the last 15,000 miles. And the service manual says do an adjustment. I think it says every 12 to 15,000 miles. And guys, that's excessive. You do not have to check it that often. You can go 20 to 25,000 miles, and you will usually see like 3 or 4 that need adjustment at that mileage. But you definitely don't need to do it every 12 to 15. I think the reason they put that in the service manual was for new engines. You know, when an engine has no miles on it, parts have to wear in a little bit. And so they were conservative in saying, you know, adjust it every 12 to 15. You don't have to do that every 20,000 to 25,000. All right, let's go over here. We're going to get our new valve cover gasket. And first we're going to clean up our valve cover in the parts washer. All right, let's get this old valve cover gasket off of here. That's the old one. That's going to go in the trash. And we're going to go ahead and clean up the valve cover here in the parts washer. Now, guys, that's the original sticker, and it had the part number for the valve cover. Sometimes that residue doesn't come all the way off. And it's coming off. Let's see if we can hit it with this Scotch-Brite. So we're going to have a little residue from the original part number sticker there, because I don't want to go scrubbing on it or use a razor blade and like mess up our valve cover by putting scratches all over it. All right, I'm also going to just brush up here a little bit on our throttle linkage assembly. You don't want to brush too hard because the zinc plating will come off. That stuff is pretty fragile. It'll last, you know, a very, very long time, but if you scrub it, it will start to come off. Yeah, that actually cleaned up really nice. All the zinc plating is still on there. And we'll hit this last piece. That's about all the scrubbing I want to do on there. Okay, there's our beautiful valve cover, our throttle linkage parts here. Let me get this dried off. We'll get the gasket on and put it back on the engine. Yeah, this cleaned up really nice. And guys, this is you know, cast aluminum from the factory. And don't polish your valve cover. That's not what these cars looked like. They didn't have polished valve covers, and it makes your car look funny. Just leave it cast aluminum and clean it up real nice. That's how they shipped from the factory. Here we go. That looks really, really good. All right, let me get our gasket. Guys, there's any number of brands. L-Ring or Victor Rines make excellent gaskets. I think there's your part number, 712379600. I really like both of those, L-Ring or Victor Rine. All right, here's the world's most complex valve cover gasket. All right, gasket installed. Let's get this back on the car. All right, that one went on really easy. And let's put our 13 millimeters back all around. All right, guys, now what you want to check before you tighten everything down is you want to look around the gasket to make sure none of it pinched anywhere. Now, if it did pinch or come loose, this will rock slightly. See, it's on there really firm. It's not rocking. But let's go around and check with a flashlight, because if you rolled the edge of the gasket anywhere, you will have a horrible oil leak when you crank up your car. So we're just looking, looks good. All right, now it's especially around the back side. You need to look, make sure nothing's pinched back here. Okay, let's go ahead, snug those down. Now, you don't have to go crazy tight on these 13 millimeters. It's only like 10 foot-pounds or so. All right, now you just want to snug them up, guys. You don't want to go crazy tight. All right, that's it, guys. All right, now we need to put all of our throttle linkage back on, and I will come back when I'm finished. All right, guys, one thing I wanted to show you before I start reattaching my linkages, I like to put automatic transmission fluid in a little syringe and lubricate all these linkages before I snap them back on here. And dust and grease does not stick to, dust and dirt, you know, doesn't stick to automatic transmission fluid like it does to like grease. So that's why I like to use that. All right, let's lube all those up. And we're gonna get all these up here too. Then I gotta pop off on that side and lubricate over there, but I'll be back when I'm finished. As I've got everything lubricated, look how nice and smooth that is. I don't have our plug back in for the AC shutoff switch. Basically what that switch does, guys, when you hit full throttle, this lever clicks that switch and it turns off your AC compressor, so you get like the extra 2 or 3 horsepower, or you know, that's what that switch is, and it was only on 85 models. But before I reconnect that, what I want to do now is pull off all of these diesel return hoses. See right there, these are they've been on there for a while, and I'm going to replace it with genuine Mercedes hose. And I'll show you how to do a couple of them. It's not hard, but you just want to twist these guys off of here. Sometimes you got to get a little razor blade and slice down at the bottom, and that just makes it easier to remove them. Oh, there it goes. All right. The one I'm actually doing here comes around to the is the main return back to the fuel tank, and I can see it must have been leaking a little bit because someone put a little zip tie right there. So we'll cut that off. There we go. And we'll pull this hose off of here. There we go. Now we're just going to cut our new one to this exact same length and reattach it. So I got to do that on 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on the back, we have a little plug. We have our little plug, and I'll show, well, actually, that one has been replaced. That is, yeah, see that little rubber plug cap they put on there? There's no reason to change that one. That one's been replaced. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these. All right, guys, I'm going to reattach. We have our new hose here. This is genuine Mercedes. You can see it's like a gray color with an orange stripe on the side of it. This is the good stuff. And before I put them on there, I like to shoot just a little motor oil right here on the end, and that helps it to slip on there easier. So we'll just attach this one. You can basically get them started by hand. And then I like to take a pair of needle nose and just kind of push it down the rest of the way. You want it to go all the way down. All right, then we pull it up through here, and then we reattach it right here to the return nipple. So let me put some, there we go, a little oil on there. Okay, we got that one done. We can see it's pressed on right there. It loops around through a little retaining clip right there, and then comes out and presses on right here. So I need to go ahead and knock out the rest of these. I'll show you when I'm done. All right, guys, we've got all the hoses changed. Now we can put our clip back up here for the AC shutoff. Now, when you're doing this, you get diesel everywhere. See how it's all wet down there from changing all these lines? So we want to go ahead and blow that out and then crank it up and check and see if we have any leaks. All right, we're gonna go ahead and fire it up here, let the glow plug cycle, and we're gonna check to make sure we don't have any leaks. That engine is running so good. Now, what I wanna do, just go look to make sure we're not leaking from any of the new fittings. And I've dried it off, so we would immediately see any diesel leaks. Yep, we are good. And now I'm just looking for any leaks in the valve cover gasket. All right, guys, we are golden. Fresh valve adjustment, all new return hoses. This thing is running fantastic. Look how smooth it is. Again, ignore the air filter housing. The vibrations make it do this like weird slow wobble in the camera. But look how smooth the engine is. Okay, anyway, time to get on to the all the fluids and filters. All right, guys, this Motive Products, this is a pressure bleeder. If you bleed brakes a lot, these things are awesome. Let me show you how it works. So first, I'm going to go ahead and top off our reservoir with fresh brake fluid. And what we want to do is fill it with fresh brake fluid. And it's got the old fluid in there too, so we want to flush all this through the system, out the calipers, and then refill it again with fresh brake fluid, flush it through until we get that old fluid out of there and have all new brake fluid in the system. But I'll show you how it works. Okay, I've topped off our fluid, but see, we have our older brown fluid in there, and I've mixed in fresh fluid with it, but we have it filled up. We want to flush all that through, and all we do is we connect our cap here. All right, and then we want to pressurize the system. We have a PSI gauge right here, and we want to go to 10 PSI. You really don't want to go much more than that. I mean, you go up to maybe 10, between 10 and 15. Always just go to 10 PSI. But you don't want to go too much more than that because you don't want to mess up any seals in your brake system. And 10 PSI is fine for a brake system. All right, there we go. Our system is under pressure. It's at 10 PSI. All right, I'm back here at the rear passenger caliper. You always want to start at the rear on the rear passenger side. It's farthest away from the master cylinder, and you want to work your way up towards the master cylinder. Okay, you can see I just have a simple hose connected, and we're going to crack this loose, and we're going to see the brake fluid come out because it's under pressure. See it right there? You can also see the bubbles. Now I like to hold it kind of up in the air. There we go. You can see our bubbles coming out of the system, and it's pushing that old fluid through here because it's under pressure from the master reservoir, or the master cylinder and reservoir. All right, cool. We're gonna let that go for a second, push some old fluid through, and we'll do the other side. Then we want to check the reservoir to make sure it's not getting empty. You don't want to, run your reservoir dry. All right, we are done with the first round of bleeding. Let me remove depressurize the system. There we go. And you see how low we got our levels here. Now we just want to fill it up with all fresh fluid and do it again. This is kind of time consuming, guys. You got to do it multiple times. All right, let's get our fluid in there. You want to be careful with brake fluid too. You don't want to spill this stuff anywhere. It's highly corrosive if you get it on any metal or anything. And you don't need to use any special brake fluid. Just grab your, auto parts store brand, .3 or .4 brake fluid. It's all the same stuff, guys. Don't need to go spending a lot of money on some special brand. All right, you can see the rear reservoir fills up first, and then that flows over. See how much cleaner it looks already? And then we can flow that over until the front reservoir. Let me grab another container here. All right. Yeah, it's already starting to clear up pretty good. So let me finish this up, and we'll be back in a minute. All right, we've run our second. You can see how low the fluid is down there. I've got it almost down to the minimums. So we need to release the pressure and refill it again, then we'll be done. Here you go, guys. If you want to buy this power bleeder, it's model number 0109. That's for European. And you can get the other adapters too for the cap. But this is the one with the metal cap instead of the plastic cap, which will last you much longer. All right, guys, excuse the background noise. I have the shop heater on because it's actually getting really cold here in Georgia. Let's go ahead and fill this guy up again. And then we will have all fresh fluid in the system. Yeah, you can't really see it filling up now. All right, there we go, guys. You can see how clear that fluid is now. We have all fresh fluid in the system. We flushed it through twice, and that brake system is now brand new and good to go. All right, we're gonna put the wheels back on now with the new tires. And part of the reason I think why these front wheels stayed so clean and the paint so nice is because if you look here, right behind there is the backing. It's like a brake dust shield. Here, I took one off on the other side. Yeah, check it out. Here's the brake dust shield that was in there. Now, sometimes these things can like rattle and rub, but I didn't notice it on this car. I'm gonna reinstall them. But if you ever notice there's like some rattling or rubbing sound from the front of the car, you can just remove the wheel and take these out. And then like readjust them and then reinstall the wheel. But yeah, those will keep your front wheels pretty clean from the brake dust. All right, let's go ahead and get this wheel on here. I've got that nice little stud that screws in there, and I can just slide the wheel over it. And I went ahead and refinished the original lug bolts in a nice aluminum / silver color so it matches the wheels. You don't have to do that. I just like doing it. It makes it look really nice. All right, let me get these on here and I'll get the center caps installed. And you want to torque these with a torque wrench, guys. I'm just getting them on there initially. All right, let me get the center caps. There we go. Genuine Mercedes center cap. And guys, pretty easy to install. You just kind of pop it over the outside there. There we go. Boom. Okay, we have the wheels and tires back on the car for the first time in like over a month. And anyway, we're not done with fluid and filters. Let me get it up on the lift. We're going to do an oil change, differential change. We'll check the transmission fluid, see what color it is. Power steering fluid, filter. We need to check all that stuff. All right, let's go ahead and start draining all these fluids. I'm going to crack the radiator down here at the bottom. There's a plug. We're going to drain that out, and then we're going to get our oil filter out and suck out our power steering fluid with the fluid extractor. All right, see how much of a mess I'm going to make here. There we go. Let that drain out there. All right, let's get our oil filter out of here. Now guys, when you pull this filter out, sometimes the O-ring for the cap stays behind. You need to make sure you get that out too. And I'll just like to wipe away any of the spillage we got back there. All right guys, now I'm going to use the fluid extractor. We're just going to suck out the power steering fluid. Yeah, this actually, that's actually been recently changed. That's in good shape. You know what, we'll go ahead, suck it out of there anyway, and change the power steering filter down there, because often that hasn't been changed, even though that fluid is fresh. Yeah, the car was obviously being serviced. Let me check the transmission fluid while I'm at it and see what that looks like. Yeah, when I'm checking the transmission fluid, it's easy to see the condition if you just put it on a white piece of paper. And if it's brown, hasn't been changed in a while. Oh, I can already tell this is brand new. Look at that. That is brand new transmission fluid. Okay, so However, I don't know how old the filter is. The fluid is definitely brand new. So in this case, rather than go to the extent of draining the torque converter and all that, I just want to go in there and replace the filter, just in case the previous folks didn't change the filter. But the fluid is definitely fresh fluid. So we'll go ahead and lift the car up, knock that out here in a second. Yeah, so I run into this a lot, guys, on these really nice, well-maintained vehicles. The fluids on this car have obviously recently been changed. But to get access to the filters, you have to drain the fluid. So I want to change the transmission filter just because, there's no way to know if that's been changed, and the power steering filter. But I mean, I can literally tell the coolant, the power steering fluid, the transmission fluid, all of that was extremely, the fluids, you can tell when they're old and when they're used and when they're fresh. Now the oil, you can't. The oil on these cars is always black. Like if you drive it 1 mile, you're going to have pitch black oil. So you can't tell on the oil, but you can really tell on everything else. We also need to go back and do the differential. I don't know if that's ever been changed, and that's also a situation to check it. You actually have to crack the drain plug and pull it out. And if it's fresh, it's like, oh well, I just pulled the drain plug and it's all draining out. But that that's just one thing you have to do. Even if it's fresh, you're going to have to drain it. So I don't know. We'll take a look. All right, let's go ahead and get this filter out of here. There we go. Get that off of here. And then this is like a little spring-loaded device here. Take that out. This is a pretty cool device. It is a fluid extractor. Here, I'll show it to you guys. You hook it up to your air compressor, and then we just hit the valve, and we can suck all the fluid out. Yeah, see how clear that fluid is? That's new fluid. That's all right. We'll put stuff back in there. All right, there we go. We can see our filter down there, and I want to go ahead and get that guy out of here because these are usually the original filters. Yep, that's the original filter. So here's the top half of it. We'll just throw that over there. And there's the actual filter right there. Let me get that out of here. There we go. And there's our bottom plate. All right. Now I want to suck all that fluid out of there. Yeah, look how clean it is in there. It was nice. They were obviously changing the fluid. People never change those filters. So we're going to go pick up another one, put a fresh one in there. Let me stick it down in the lines here. All right. So I keep these man filters in stock. Let's see, PF1055, and pretty easy to install these guys. And then you want to put your, they come with new O-rings. You want to put that on there. They also come with a new crush washer for your oil pan. You want to put that on there. And let's go ahead. Let me put some oil on this guy. There we go. So we'll get this filter back in there. Then we'll get the car up in the air and go ahead and drain the oil. I got to go pick up a power steering fluid filter. I think the SD is the easiest car to change your oil on. The 300D, all the vacuum lines are in the way on the coupes and wagons, but the 126, it's just, there's nothing in the way. You just slip it right down there. Super easy. Now, guys, when you put these 13 millimeter nuts back on, don't crank them down. I say this in all my videos, you'll pull out the studs. These studs are pressed in to the oil filter housing. And if you crank these down, you're going to pull those studs out. So you just snug them up like 10 foot-pounds. It doesn't take very much. The O-ring does all the sealing. Let's do one little snug turn. And that's it, guys. Don't go crazy on that. Yeah, that's a fresh crush washer, so I can tell that they whoever serviced this did correctly put on the crush washer, but we're changing that when we put it back on. There you go. You always want to reuse, or not reuse, I'm sorry, use a new crush washer. Now, if you're in a pinch and you don't have one, like for example, here's the used one. Let's see. Yeah, see, you can flip them over. And you can get one more use out of them. See, the other side hasn't been crushed. So sometimes I've seen people do that, but we're going to put on another one. I know that's kind of stupid details, guys, just letting you know these kind of things. All right, we're going to go ahead and drain our transmission pan and remove it so we can place the filter. Now I'm about to show you why we don't need to go to the trouble of draining the torque converter. This fluid is bright red and it's fresh. The only reason I'm doing this is so I can change that filter in there, because I don't know if they changed the filter when they last changed the fluid. Now, if your fluid's brown, sure, drain the torque converter. Look at that. Guys, that is brand new transmission fluid. It is bright red. So don't waste your time trying to drain your torque converter and do all that if you have fresh fluid in there. Do it, in the next 30,000 miles. Do it again then. All right, we want to go ahead and get the pan off, and I'm going to leave a couple of bolts attached until this is done draining. Yeah, I can even see that gasket that's a fresh gasket. This was recently done. I hate it. I bet you I'm going to see a fresh filter when I get in there, but yeah, it just sucks. There's no way to tell, so I have to check, All right, I think we got them all off, but two of them. Yeah, so I'll let that finish draining, then we'll drop that pan. Guys, I just wanted to show you how fresh this fluid is. I'll take a syringe. Look at that. Literally brand new transmission fluid in there. After 30, 40,000 miles, it'll at least get a bright or a brown tint to it. But yeah, this was just put in, I would say, a couple of thousand miles ago. All right. Now we are going to have some left in the pan here. So we're going to try not to spill it. See if I can pull that off. Wow. That is clean. That is a clean transmission. Let me get this fluid out of here. In the meantime, let's get our oil plug back in here. Now, you don't need to crank these down either, guys. You just kind of do it until you feel the crush washer start to seat. There you go, right about there. That's all it takes. While we're at it, it's kind of stopped dripping. I just wanted to show you. Obviously, brand new fluid. Look how clean it is up in here. So let me go ahead. Here's what I wanted to check. We need to get that filter off of there. Yep. There's our filter elements there. They don't look horribly dirty. I'll check them out. But we want to get this off and go ahead and change it because there's no way to tell when that's been changed. All right, we're going to go ahead and clean up our pan here in the parts washer. And here's the gasket I pulled off there. This is still a soft gasket. I mean, I can tell that was fresh. That was just installed not too long ago. But I've got it off, so we're going to throw this one away and just go ahead and put on a new one. Let's go ahead and get this cleaned out here. Get it all pretty on the outside. All right, get that dried off there. Okay, I like the brand L-Ring. Victor Ryan's also makes a nice brand. But let's go ahead and get our gasket out of here. There we go. Even though the old gasket was still good. Now, these gaskets have these little tabs on the side. And you can just pull that tab. There you go. See, it clips over the edge and that holds the gasket on there. Right there and right there. There we go. All right, let's go inspect. Let's get our filter off of there and inspect the filter, because I think this is going to be clean. All right, we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3 little Phillips screws here. All right, let's take this filter over to the bench. Okay, we have our new filter over here. And yeah, just as I suspected, you see the filter element there? See how it's bright red? That is not a dirty filter. When these things get dirty, these filters will turn really dark and like get black. And that one is red, the color of the transmission fluid. So, yeah, the filter and the fluid had been changed on this car, but this is the only way to know. You have to check it. So we'll go ahead and throw in our new filter and pan gasket. All right, guys, the filters, they have a little cork gasket here and here for the input and output of the filter, here and here. And you just want to line those up. You really can't install it wrong, because the holes only go in one spot. Okay, like I said, these are some aluminum valve bodies, so we just snug it up. Snug. Snug. There we go, snug. All right, let's go ahead and put our pan back on here. All right, guys, for the pan, you want to make sure that you do not over tighten it, because if you over tighten it, you're going to bend these little ears on the side of the pan, and it's not going to seal right ever again. So you just snug the pan up there. So I'm going to get a couple of these bolts started. We'll do one there, then I'll show you how much to tighten it. Now I'm just going to snug those real quick. Okay, let's get the rest of them in here, and then we're going to snug it up by hand. See how I'm holding it down here? We're going to do it in a cross pattern. All right, guys, that's it. You don't want to over tighten those. The gasket does all the work. Good, there we go. That's done. Now we want to replace our crush washer on the drain plug. Get that in there and then we can refill the system. All right, you have like a little aluminum crush washer there. Get that on here. And you just want to tighten this up till you feel that crush washer actually crush. There we go, guys. That's it. All right, let's get this thing back down. And well, actually, I got to go to the differential now. Let's go ahead and drain that and fill it. And then we'll get this thing back on the ground and put the transmission and oil back in here. All right, guys, the differential is another fluid you can't really check unless you pull out the drain plug. And once you pull it out, you got to change it even if it's fresh. So we're going to see if this stuff is fresh or not. And I'll be able to tell immediately. Okay, doesn't look terrible, but it's not fresh. So good. We'll go ahead and change the diff fluid because it is time. All right, I'll finish letting that drain now. In the meantime, I'll get the fill plug open. There we go. All right, and guys, you just fill this with regular 80W90 Dinosaur gear oil. You don't have to do anything fancy. Just get Valvoline or whatever your favorite brand is. All right, guys, here we go. You can refill your diffs with just your regular old 80W90 gear oil. You don't need to use anything fancy back here. It's just gear oil. I like to use Valvoline, but you know, as long as it's like, I think GL5 compliant, any of them will do. And this is going to take a minute to fill. Now, the way you know that it's filled is it will start running out of the fill hole. And when it starts running out of the fill hole, you just put your fill cap back on. Okay, there it comes. See it coming out of the fill hole? That's it. As soon as it starts to do that, pull out your cap, or pull out your fill tube. There we go. And stick your cap on. That's it, guys. All right. Guys, next thing we want to do, see we have this wet hose right here. That's because it is seeping some diesel. Now we need to unscrew it from the tank and replace it. But first, I want to unscrew it from the line right there and then go ahead and drain the diesel out of the tank. And yes, this is a messy job. This is, it's not really the best view, but I have to be under here and I can't get the camera up in here. But basically, I've got the hose clamp loose and I'm going to pull off. We're going to move that hose clamp. I'm going to loosen it a little bit more. Oh, there it goes. All right. Now it's draining into my bucket. I don't know if you guys can see that. I've got a 50 or 35 gallon container here, and we're just going to drain the entire tank into there, and then we can change this hose. So I'll be back in a minute. All right, let's go ahead and get this old hose out of here. There we go. That's what was leaking right there. So I just need to get a replacement hose and a little crush washer right there. All right, while we're up here, that's the one we took out. Now, here's the in-tank filter or in-tank screen. That one's not leaking, but since we just drained the tank, I'm gonna go ahead and pull that screen out and replace it, and we'll go ahead and install a new hose here too. So I've already got this one loose. We just need to screw off. This is a 19 millimeter and get our hose clamp off. And then there's a special tool that we can stick around the in-tank screen to get that out. Let me show it to you here. There we go. It's this one right here. 17 millimeter socket, and then that goes around the tool, and we can get that one out of there. So let me remove those. We've got this hose detached from the in-tank strainer, and we can undo that. That's a 19 millimeter. I've already gotten it loose. There we go. Just screw that off of there. And some more diesel will spill out, guys. That's okay. This is messy. The diesel doesn't hurt anything. You just have to clean up your mess. I've done this in a driveway on jack stands before with lots of buckets. Much easier on a lift. All right, there we go. So that's basically the same type of hose. It's just a smaller diameter thread for this one. Now let's go ahead and get our in-tank strainer out of there. And now we just got to turn this out of here. It's in there pretty damn tight. There we go. There it goes. And let's just see if this one's dirty. I don't even know if it's dirty. We're just kind of just doing this because it's one of those things like while you're in there, might as well check. It's only got 50,000 miles on it. Yep. That one is clean as a whistle. Look at that, guys. That screen, yeah, you can see through it. See the flashlight up there through it? That is clean as can be. There is not a drop of grime or anything in that tank. So while we got it out, let's just go ahead and install a new one. All right, guys, here's our beautiful brand new one. And it's important, see that O-ring gasket I've got on there? We've got a new one of those. All right, let's put this back up in there. That'll be good for the next 40 years. The other one was in perfect health, but you know, we just had to check since we were in here. Come on, get on there. All right, here we go. And you don't need to go crazy tight, guys. It's got an O-ring sealing gasket. There we go. All right, let's get our new hoses up there now. All right, guys, here we have our new cables. Now, the one that connects to the in-tank strainer or in-tank screen, that's always long, so you have to basically install it in there and then cut it to length before attaching it to your hard line. And then this one, this is the return back to the tank. And you can see we have, let me get a focus there. There's our new copper crush washer. Now, this one here doesn't require a crush washer because if you look, see how the top edge right here, it's got like a slight bevel to it, and that's self-sealing. So you don't need a crush washer on that one. Recording this as best as I can for you. It's a very hard camera angle, but for the one, you want to put the one in your tank first. Now see how long it is? So what you do, you kind of loop it around. There we go. We want it to be right about like that. Now, you can have it a little long because the trick is you just don't want to kink it, but you don't want to make it so long that it rubs against your axle because that would not be good. It'd rub a hole in it. So we just kind of, you get it up there and here you go. We're going to put it something about, something about right there. All right, we have our other one installed with the crush washer. Now we just want to tighten it up. And you can feel the crush washer actually crush meaning you're getting a good seal. All right, we'll come right around here. There we go. All right, guys, there we go. New strainer, all new hoses, and you can see our clearance to the axle is good. That axle is not going to move up and hit that hose, and our hose clamps are on there. Now, sometimes for added safety, I'll just add a little zip tie to connect those two together, and that will ensure that this never droops down and rubs against that axle. So let's go ahead and add our zip tie. All right, there we go. Now you don't want to put your zip tie on there real tight. See, it's loose on there. See, I can still move that around. It's just loosely on there, and it's not going to move up that way, and it can't move over that way because the way the hoses are. But that ensures you always have plenty of clearance. All right, that job is done. Now I need to go in and wash all my clothes and take a shower because I am covered in diesel. That is a very messy job. So need to get the car down. We'll put 5 gallons of fuel back into the tank, and we'll start changing or start adding in new fluids back at the front of the car. All right, guys, we're going to put in the transmission fluid, and here's the stuff you want to use. It's called Dex Merc, and the key is right here on the back. See on the right side there? GM Dexron 3. That is the stuff you want to use. And it's tough to fill the transmission with this big jug because I buy them by the gallons. So I have my special transmission filling jug, and I've marked out, you know, how much I need to fill it, so I know exactly how much it goes in there. But we got fresh fluid. I just poured in here. And this is clean, guys. It's just a clean plastic jug that I use to refill transmission because you got to do it through this little funnel. And let's go ahead and do that now. All right, let's get our dipstick tube out of here. And then you got to get this little funnel. I've got one that fits right in the tube there. There we go. And this is why I fill up my jug, because I can control how much comes out much easier than those big 1 gallon containers. And this just takes a few minutes to fill up, guys. All right. All right, now let's get some engine oil back in here. For the engine oil, let me show you what I use. Now, I used to use Rotella T4, and recently I switched to Lubrication Engineers Monolec engine oil. Monolec is their additive package, and this is 15W40. Now, I'm going to put up Clay's information on the screen. Clay works at Lubrication Engineers. Guys, I'm not getting paid for this. I just love this oil. But if you reach out to him and mention Woods and Barkley, I think they give you 10% off or so on your order. Anyway, I used this stuff in my race car when I was professionally racing, and I also used their transmission fluid. And racing is like the harshest environment you can be in. And this oil, it never burned, it never broke down. Now, I've had some guys ask me if this is synthetic or conventional motor oil. And I asked Clay that today. And it is conventional motor oil or mineral oil, but the Monolec additive package they put in here specifically for diesels is a synthetic additive package. But yes, so this is conventional motor oil, and it is great stuff. I use it in all of my cars. I use it in my F-250 diesel trucks, in all the Mercedes, every car that comes through the shop. All right, while we're waiting on our oil to settle, I went ahead and picked up a new power steering filter. This is a man filter. I also like Hank's. Let me show you that one. I just happen to have both of them in the shop today. There's your part numbers. Both of these are made in Germany. Excellent filters. But this is probably the most neglected item on these cars. All right, let's go ahead and drop this down here. I'm going to grab up my little hook here. And there we go. It just sits right down in there. All right, now for power steering fluid, guys, I've seen shops use regular power steering fluid. I've seen shops use the automatic transmission fluid. It doesn't matter. And if you mix them a little bit, it doesn't matter either. All of it works fine. Don't overthink this stuff. But if you're going to use the automatic transmission fluid, you have to use this kind. Again, it's Dex Merc. Same stuff we put in the transmission. And back here it says Dexron 3. I just showed it to you earlier in the video. So there you go, Dexron 3. This is the stuff I like to use. But again, I've seen guys use power steering fluid, you know, indie shops, and that works good too. So we'll fill this up. Now I have to get the air bubbles out of the system. So I'll have to fire up the car, turn the wheel lock to lock, purge the air out of the system, and then top it off a little bit more later. I change the oil in my engine every 3,000 miles, even on my trucks. And you want to do the same on this car, every 3,000 miles. There's no reason to go 5,000 miles. There's no reason to go 10,000 miles. No one ever ruined their car by changing the oil too much. And manufacturers today will give you this nonsense about 10,000 mile oil changes. Guys, that's BS. The reason they tell you that is because they want your engine to wear out right around the warranty period, and you'll have to buy a new car. All right, there we go. Now again, I have to purge the air out, and then we'll fill it back up, top it off. Let's put our cap back on. And our oil is probably settled now, the engine oil, so let's go ahead and check that. So we'll do that and then let it settle for like 10 minutes. All right, we are right there at the fill line. I think I nailed it perfectly. And you notice, guys, look how black the oil is. I mean, it goes black immediately. Look, it's black. I just put it in the engine. I haven't even started it. As soon as you put that oil in a diesel, it just turns black. That's what it does. There's, you know, diesel engines make a lot of soot. That's why you have the additives in your diesel engine oil, is to help clean out that soot. Okay, there's a couple of different coolants you can use. Xerox G05, this is the stuff that's been used for decades. Mercedes just came out with something new, like I think it's the blue G48. But either one of those are absolutely fine for these engines. And this is already a 50-50 diluted. Here we go. Stuff looks good enough to drink. It's hard to tell when you have enough coolant in the system, because the way these reservoirs age, they turn like that golden brown color, and that's the same color as this coolant. All right, I'll go ahead and top this off and be back in a minute. All right, you can see our coolant line is right there. Now we'll have to get the car up to temperature, run it with the cap off for a few minutes, and this is a self-bleeding system, so it'll purge any air out of the system, and we might have to top it off again later. All right, I'm going to fire up the car, let that oil circulate, and then we'll let it sit for like 10 minutes and do a final check of the oil level. All right, guys, this one's going to be a little harder to see. We have our main fuel filter right there, and we have a replacement Hanks filter right here. So we want to unscrew that thing and get our fresh main fuel filter installed. And guys, you're going to spill diesel when you're doing this, and that's okay. It won't hurt anything. This is a 24 millimeter. We just want to crack that loose. There we go. And then we can spin our filter off from the bottom. All right, there we go. Got this filter off of here. Let me weasel this out of here. All right, guys, before you install your new filter, you want to fill it up with diesel. I just do it on the ground here. I fill it all the way to the top. That way there's no air in it, and that way your system will start easier. Because there won't be any air bubbles in your fuel system. So let me go ahead and do that, and we'll get this guy installed. All right, before I stick my filter back on there, we want to go ahead. We're going to change the pre-filter. And see, that's our original primer pump. And those things, they're notorious for leaking. So I'm going to go ahead, remove the primer pump, and put on the more modern, upgraded primer pump. All right, getting these old primer pumps out is a little tricky. use some vice grips, just clamp it onto the side. Just watch out for your fuel hoses. Make sure you don't hit anything. All right, got that thing loose, and we can just screw it out here. And again, you're gonna get diesel everywhere, but that's okay. It's not gonna hurt anything. Now, once it comes out, there's also, there you go, there's a copper crush washer on it, and it actually came out with it. It didn't stay in there. Got to make sure you get it out if it stays down there. All right, let's get our new one installed. All right, guys, here is the new upgraded primer pump. And you can see this one is not, you don't have to unscrew the handle to pump it, because that's what leaks on those original ones. This one, once it's installed, it just works automatically, and these don't leak. Now, you have to reinstall a new crush washer, or it is going to leak on you. So let's go ahead and get this down in there. Now, what you want to do, you kind of want to hold your crush washer with your finger as you go down there and put it in place so it doesn't fall off. There we go. See, we got it in there, and then we can start it. Sorry. I know that's hard to see, you guys. Let's see. Well, there you go. You can screw it back into place. There you go. Now I need to tighten it down. And the way you do that is with a crow's foot, 17 millimeter or 11/16. This allows you to come at it from the side and tighten it down. And I know you guys can't see down in there, but basically you come down from the side now that it's in there, and I'll see if I can show you guys. All right, there you go. See how my crow's foot is around the side of it there? And now I can tighten it in there. Okay, good. That's in there, and that's not gonna leak. All right, next thing we wanna do is change out our pre-fuel filter. And now that's a genuine Mercedes one. See, it says Mercedes on it. Here's the problem with the genuine Mercedes. They're not clear, so you can't see through them to see when they're dirty. This is one of the few parts I like to use that I do not like the one that Mercedes originally made. Let me show you what I like to use. I got a whole bag of these back here. There we go. This is a Hengst made in Germany, but see how it's clear? You can actually see through it to see when it gets really dirty. And you always want to keep one of these in your glove box, guys, because these clog up, once a year or whatever. You want to change it. But you know when to change it is you'll be going down the highway, like, driving normally, and then all of a sudden you'll be going like 40 miles an hour, and the accelerator pedal will be floored, and you just aren't going fast. And first thing you'll think, oh my God, I've messed up my engine. No, it is the pre-fuel filter. That's what these are for. When they get clogged up, you lose engine power. Now, always keep a little stubby screwdriver in the glove box. And all you do is you go down here and you just loosen these little hose clamps. There you go. We'll loosen that one. And there's another one right there, and you can pull that right off and pop your other one on. You can do this in a gas station parking lot. And again, I always keep some like black gloves in the glove box too, or mechanic gloves, because you'll get diesel on you when you're doing this. We'll undo that. This side off. There we go. It's that easy, guys. Yeah, I don't really know if that one's dirty or not. You can't tell. Now we're just going to put our other one right back in there. All right, guys, easy as that. We have our new pre-fuel filter and our new primer pump. I'll get a rag, wipe away some of the diesel, and then we need to put on our fuel filter, and we're going to be done servicing this vehicle. All right, let's get our main fuel filter back in. And remember, guys, I said fill it all the way up with diesel. See, we have diesel all the way to the top. This thing is totally full. And it makes it a little messy, but it makes it for easier starting because you're not going to have air in there. Now, we've opened up the fuel system and drained the tank and all that, so we're going to have air in our system anyway. All right, let me get this started here. We're going to have air in the system anyway, and so most likely I'm going to have to crack this little fuel filter housing banjo bolt right here. We have to crack this one loose and then crank the car for like 30 seconds until we get diesel squirting out of there. Then we can tighten it back up and fire up the engine. All right, before I tighten that 24 millimeter nut, retaining nut that holds in our main fuel filter, let me show you what I'm talking about. So right here on the fuel filter housing, so you have an arrow for inlet and an arrow for outlet. And the one with the out, that's a 17 millimeter. If you crack that loose, you don't need to remove it, just crack it loose, and then crank the car for like 30 seconds. It'll start purging the air out of there, and then diesel will start squirting out of here. And that's when you know the system is bled, and you can tighten that back up. A lot of guys will go up here and crack each injector loose, and you don't have to do it that way. You can do it from this one banjo bolt right here. All right, what's also going to make it easier to start is if we can get the fuel up from the tank into our primer pump. There we go. See, it's filling up there in our pre-fuel filter. You want to pump this, I don't know, like 20 or 30 times. Get the system good and primed here before we try to start it. All right, that's probably pretty good. Look how clear it is in there. All right, let's go ahead, try to get this thing fired up. We're probably gonna have to crack this banjo bolt, but I'll try it first without that. All right, let's go in here, see if we can get this thing fired up. And guys, you don't need the gauge cluster in to start it. Gauge clusters on SDs are all electric. There's no risk of oil squirting out like on the 300D. All right, let's see if this thing will fire up. Like I said, I'll probably have to purge the air, but we'll give it a shot. Wow, we got it. All right, here's the moment of truth. Is it gonna die right here because of an air pocket? Oh, that's fantastic. We were able to change all that without getting any air in the system. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and let the engine get up to temp, and then we're gonna top off our coolant once that self-bleeds. So I'm gonna let it idle here for a little while. All right, guys, next we want to go ahead and change the wiper blades. I like to use Bosch. Bosch are the ones that fit correctly. Also, we're gonna top off the washer fluid. It's winter time, so we have the good down to negative 20 degrees. And if you're in somewhere colder than that, I don't know what to tell you. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get our wiper blades on here now. And just a little trick, guys, when you're changing these wipers, you gotta lift the hood all the way up to the vertical position. Here's the Bosch wiper that came off of here. So we'll put our new one on there. There we go. Bosch is the only ones you want to use, guys. The other stuff really doesn't go on there correctly. Bosch is the best ones. And of course, because they're German. All right, got our nice new blades on there. Got our coolant reservoir topped off there. We are all set. Let's just do a quick check of these squirters. I don't know the last time these were actually used. Now, I don't have the hood all the way shut, guys. So they're actually gonna squirt like right here instead of up here due to the angle of the hood. But let's go ahead. Perfect. Yes, those are nice. All right. And that is it for the service video. We have done all of the service required fluids and filters on this car. This is an awesome 300 SD. I am very tempted to keep this one. I know I say that about a lot of my cars, and it's hard to let these go after I've put so much effort and passion into getting everything is, you know, just right. It is so hard to let these cars go, and I know I'm probably going to never see another one, an 85 pearl black metallic with 50,000 miles on it. I mean, this is a unicorn SD. But anyway, the last thing we have to do is get the wood trim in. That's supposed to ship back out next week, and then it's going over to Scott for detailing, and we'll actually do the test drive video first, and then we'll go have it detailed, and then the final walk around. So anyway, hope you learned something in this video, guys. We'll see you next time. Take care.